Starfield is almost here, and as such, Bethesda have revealed the Starfield PC requirements with minimum and recommended specs. So in this video, we're going to go through all the minimum and recommended specs. So following through with the minimum requirements to play Starfield on PC, the minimum PC specs for Starfield are as follows. This will all be shown on the screen, but I'm going to go through them right now. OS, Windows 10 version 22H2, processor AMD Ryzen 5 2600X Intel Core i7-6800K, memory 16GB of RAM, the graphics AMD Radeon RX 5700 or a Nevada GeForce 1070 Ti, DirectX is a version 12, the storage 125GB available space, additional notes SSD required. So we all know, annoyingly, that this doesn't say what kind of experience we can expect, whether it can be a 1080p at 30 frames per second or something else. The performance profile of the Xbox Series S is 1440p at 30 frames per second with FSR2 upscaling, so we can look at its equivalent PC specs to see if this is what Bethesda has in mind. So we all know that Bethesda have limited and capped off that this game will be played at 30 frames per second. Now, a lot of fans was not happy with this situation. They like to up their frames, and honestly, I was a bit the same. I thought this was a bit ridiculous, but knowing of how big the world is and how amazing this game's probably going to be, it probably should be at 30 frames per second, because you're looking at all these other games that look so glitchy they've got so much content in it. They're playing at 60 frames per second. I think they've gone the safe option, but it's a little bit risky at the same time because fans want to up their scale. But with this game, it's not. But I don't think it will make much of a difference. That's my personal opinion. But going back, the Series S CPU is actually more akin to the Ryzen 2700, which is more powerful than they've listened here. This might be because the Series S shares more memory between the CPU and GPU, where PCs have their own memory pools. The GPU equivalent is more akin to an RX 5500 XT or RTX 2050. However, because it is able to share memory from a pool of 16GB, it can use much more VRAM than the 4GB available to these cards, making it more usable despite being very similar spec-wise. As such, PC users will need a GPU with enough VRAM, and the RX 5700 and 1070 Ti both have 8GB of VRAM. If you aren't sure how your graphics card stacks up against the RX 5700 or GeForce 1070 Ti, these are broadly equivalent to the RX 6600 and Nevada RTX 2060. Now for the recommended specs to play Starfield on PC. The OS Windows 10 11 with updates, processor AMD Ryzen 5 3600X, Intel i5 10600K, memory 16GB RAM, AMD Radeon RX 6800 XT, Nevada GeForce RTX 2080, DirectX version 12, network, broadband internet connection, storage 125GB, available space, additional notes SSD required. Similarly to the minimum spec sheet, we don't actually know how these specs translate into actual performance. What we can deduce into that the Xbox Series X is broadly equivalent to a PC equipped with a Ryzen 3600 and a RTX of 3060 Ti. This being fairly similar in performance to the RTX 2080, which is again what they recommend. On the Xbox, however, we are getting a 4K experience locked to 30 frames per second with FSR2, which is typically not the preferred level of performance for PC users as mouse input feels pretty sluggish. These specs will almost certainly allow you to reach 60 frames per second and higher at 1080p and potentially 1440p, especially when using FSR2. Well, that's going to wrap up the PC requirements for Starfield with the minimum and recommended specs. Now, let me know down below what you guys' thoughts on this video and all the specs that is for this game. Let me know down below as well in the comment section what your specs and what you are most excited for in this game for Starfield as well. I will have my specs pinned in the comments down below. Yes, I am not a specs expert, so just so you guys know if my explanations weren't so great, but I thought I'd just briefly run it all over for you guys so you can have as much information and be prepared for Starfield if you guys are in need for it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video though. Make sure to like and subscribe. There is going to be so much Starfield content that I'm about to be launching very, very soon, and it's going to get crazy. We're so close to Starfield's release date, and even from when Starfield, hopefully it's a banging game, we can bang out heaps of content. Really appreciate the support lately, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.